Welcome to Somewhere Through Time. This channel is dedicated to people who experience past life memories, those who simply cannot forget. Here, you can share your stories without judgment while remaining anonymous. Happy holidays, everyone. Merry Christmas.
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire.
Hello, my lovelies. Today's story is part 2 to last week's episode. Last week, we told you the story of the Turkish boy Ismail, who remembered his murder from his previous life. This week, we're covering his wife's story. It is a dramatic case, as a couple that was murdered together appear to have reincarnated in close proximity of one another. They were then able to meet and embrace one another as children. Just a quick recap. Abit Suzumus was murdered after an employee at his farm told him that an animal was lame. It was nighttime, and in the dark, Abit went with the employee to the stable to look at the animal. When Abit leaned over to examine the animal, someone struck Abit over the head with a heavy metal bar or hammer, which killed him. When Abit didn't return to the house, Sahide, his wife, went to the stable to see what was delaying him. She too was killed by a blow to the head. Their 2 children, Zini and Ismail, were also killed that night. 2 men were later hanged for these crimes, whose names were Ramazan and Mustafa. Cevriye Bayra was born on October 1st, 1958, in Adana, Turkey, just shy of 2 years after the death of Sahide Suzumus. Her father was Karim Bayra, who was a tinsmith, and her mother was named Cemile. After Cevriye was born, Karim, her father, had a dream in which Abit Suzumus appeared to him. As the murder of Abit was well publicized in Adana, Karim knew who Abit was. In the dream, Abit told Karim that he was sending him a gift that he should look after. When Karim asked what the gift was, Abit replied, "The one who has come with you." This dream occurred when Abit Suzumus had already reincarnated as Ismail Atinklish, who was about a year old at the time Karim had this dream. As soon as Cevriye could speak, she tried to communicate something that was unclear, but as her verbal skills improved, the words she was trying to say evolved into the following statement: Ramazan killed. As a small child, Cevriye had a pronounced phobia of the dark. This phobia persisted at least to when she was 15 years old. As one example, when the electricity at their home went out, Cevriye began crying and ran to her mother, exclaiming, "Ramazan is going to kill me." Between the ages of 2 and 3, she described how she was murdered in a prior incarnation. She said that she had gone in search of her husband, who had been killed by Ramazan. She said that she then too was killed by Ramazan by a hammer. Cevriye said that she had been killed in the dark and that she was pregnant at the time of her death. She told her parents that her name had been Sahide and that her husband's name was Abit Suzumus. All these details were historically correct, as recounted in the case of Abit Suzumus. In addition, Cevriye said that she gave birth to her child after her death. Indeed, Sahide Suzumus was going into labor at the time of her murder, but it was not publicly known that she had delivered after her death. As part of the investigation of the murderers, Shahida's body had been exhumed from her tomb, and it was found that indeed her unborn baby had been partially extruded from Shahida's body. Cevriye had an attachment to the name Sahide. She asked her mother many times to change her name to Sahide. This phenomenon of a person wanting to change their name to that of a past life identity also occurred in the case of Ismail Atinklish. When Cevriye's memories of being Sahide in a past lifetime were conveyed to the family of Ismail Atinklish, both families wished to see what would happen as Cevriye and Ismail were brought together. A meeting with Cevriye and Ismail was arranged when Cevriye was 4 years of age and Ismail was about 5. According to Ismail's father, when Cevriye and Ismail first met, they ran to each other, hugged, and kissed. Cevriye's account of the meeting, as related to Ian Stevenson, was that Ismail held and caressed her hand, that they exchanged gifts, and that they then related to each other the memories of how they were murdered. Up until 5 or 6 years of age, Cevriye kept referring to Abit Suzumus as "my husband." Ismail consistently stated that he wanted to marry Cevriye. at least through his last meeting with Ian Stevenson, which occurred in 1973. Ian Stevenson noted that she spoke in the present tense, as if Abit was still her husband in contemporary times. At the time of this meeting with Stevenson, Ismail was 16 years of age when he reported his continuing love for Jevria. Ian Stevenson last met with Jevria on her birthday on October 1st, 1967, when she was 15 years old. Stevenson was surprised by the charming young woman who met him at the door, as he had not seen her for a few years. Jevria related to Ian Stevenson that she would sometimes meet Ismail on the street, but that she found it embarrassing to speak to him. She still continued, though, to visit from time to time. Helene Minto once said, "Love is the most powerful force in the universe, and for two beings who love each other, separation is only temporary. By the laws of attraction, they will inevitably be drawn back together like magnets."